Okay. Looks like we are live and we are streaming. All right. Welcome everybody. I'm going to give you a standard 30 to 90 seconds to let people roll in as we see the count coming up. But welcome to tonight's masterclass. This is the last 2023 edition of our monthly Hospitable Masterclass series. So we're going to try and make it a little special for you, cover some good content, make it interesting, never be boring, right? There is going to be a some time for Q&A, as we always do. So there's a Q&A feature in Zoom. We got Kevin from the direct support team who's going to be here and answering questions you have specific maybe to Hospitable or how Autohost works with Hospitable. So you can take those questions. And then Kevin, also just, anything good you see that we should cover live, you can mark those to cover live and we'll bring those up. Otherwise, you can save your questions and just raise your hand, and we'll bring you up on stage towards the end and let you ask your question to either me or our special guest host tonight, our expert. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Andrew. I am the director of product at Hospitable, and I'm focused on our direct booking side, which is why I have quite a few interactions with our expert tonight, Austin Bernhardt. He is the sales and partnerships manager at Autohost. They are an industry leader in the space of guest vetting and verification. And we're going to kind of pick his brain tonight. A little bit of the basics, how guest vetting and verification works, who needs it, why you use it, and maybe try and get a bit more topical about what's so special about it now, and maybe some of the things that just aren't kind of common knowledge within the host community yet, and go from there. So Austin, welcome. You want to say hi to our guests here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrew, for that. Yeah, excited to chat a little bit about guest screening and where the industry is kind of moving in this regard. Seeing lots of activity, for 2023, and really looking forward to see what 2024 looks like as well.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for everyone in the audience for joining us live. If you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook, or I think we even streamed to LinkedIn. Who knew they had that? But those are all options for you. If you're in the Zoom audience, you actually get to ask us questions. So save those for us. I think a lot of our Hospitable customers are probably familiar with Autohost. As I was alluding to, with our direct premium line, we do have completely just embedded integrated experience where all reservations come through and have the guest vetting done. And we kind of do it, I think, a bit differently than most of Autohost customers, is we do it before the reservation is even accepted. And we do that because for us, like, we're really concerned protecting our direct booking host from fraud, from damage protection. I think those two concepts are often very closely linked. If you have someone that's not even paying for the booking because they're using a stolen credit card, they're probably not going to respect your house rules and take good care of your property. So that's where I've interacted with Autohost a lot. But it's also available to all of our Hospitable hosts who have an Autohost account on their own and just want to link that account, and they can basically pause a lot of their guest messaging until the verification is completed. And they're using those on other OTA channels. The big one, I think, being Airbnb. And that's something I think that, Austin, you guys make a claim as a company that what Airbnb provides on a reservation as far as guest vetting and verification is concerned can be insufficient for a host. So that's a pretty big claim. Do you want to back that up with some evidence?
Yeah, of course. And I'll try and speak a bit louder. I saw a quick question come in there, so please let me know if you can still hear me. Okay. So hopefully you can hear me a bit louder. So yeah, of course, that's definitely a big claim. And firstly, we'll give kudos where kudos are needed. Airbnb is probably the only OTA that is actually putting in time, effort, and resources towards vetting guests. The problem that we're seeing in the industry, and where our customers are pretty much saying, like, wow, if we didn't have Autohost on these Airbnb reservations, we would have missed these things, is really the twofold. The first thing is Airbnb is a massive company, and think of like an Apple of the industry, they want to simplify things and clean it up for their users. So what they do on a guest vetting side of things is they say, here is your guest that we have vetted perfectly. Oh, Austin is still not loud enough. Okay, here, I'm going to switch to my AirPods. Let's see if this helps.
I can hear you pretty well.
Oh,
Yeah.
sounds fine.
Yeah.
Let me
I think
tell
if
me
I
if
can
this
hear
is
you.
worse.
Oh, that's worse.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's worse. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's fix that. Okay, we're back. So,
Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to Airbnb bookings, when they're passing you this, this guest that is supposed to be vetted, you are now kind of blindly trusting that Airbnb has done its job. In our experience working very closely over millions of reservations, we've kind of seen a deeper dive into or I guess like lifting the curtain from what Airbnb is doing on the back end. And what we've noticed is it can be a little inconsistent in how they're actually providing that. But because it's Airbnb, they're pretty much saying, hey, don't worry, you have air cover. We're still going to cover any financial problems. They have a specific fund set aside for problematic, reservations that they have passed over to their hosts. So this is kind of like a calculated plan for them, is saying, we'll catch hopefully a good majority of them, but there's still going to be stuff that we are not going to be able to catch. And, that's just, we'll just kind of throw money at the problem.
Yeah.
What that doesn't do for our customers and other short-term rental, managers in the space is they're now stuck with the issues that Airbnb couldn't catch.
Yeah, and even getting paid out and compensated for damages doesn't make you whole in the sense that your property, your revenue engine might have been taken offline for however long it takes you to fix whatever catastrophic damages might have happened. So yeah, air cover is great in the sense that, it's not nothing, but you really have to prevent damages, not just insure them from happening, right? It's like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about the prevention. So when you're working with Airbnb, even just the amount of time and effort that goes into working with their team, getting your claim submitted and accepted, this is time out of your team's day that can be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
Not to mention as well, when we're talking about Airbnb, there's no way for you to then you know go back to Airbnb during a stay or before a stay saying, yeah, I talked to this guest, or, I need to get them canceled. It just becomes a he said, she said situation, and you don't have any objective evidence on your side, on the property management company side, because you weren't collecting any of this information on your own.
Do you want to just jump on that then? Like specifically then, like how does that scenario play out when you have guest vetting done? How does the conversation differ then?
Right. So this is a really cool thing that, customers that are using guest screening services like an Autohost, is you're now bringing objective evidence to the discussion. You're not saying, oh, this guest has caused me problems or damages, or even before they get here, I don't have a good feeling. They've told me that they are planning to stay for a party, and, I need to get this canceled. When you're bringing valid evidence saying this guest plugged in an invalid credit card, or a fraudulent ID, you're now showing this to Airbnb, and they have no choice now but to actually take a look at that information and allow you to cancel that booking without affecting your superhost status. Because that's the big thing, is the reputation. When these types of problems happen, sure, you might get, just like you said, Andrew, compensated for the financial, like the revenue for the stay, but how did that affect your relationship with your owner? How did that reflect the relationship with your community that you have these short-term rentals in? These are big problems, not only for short-term rental companies that are starting to build their portfolio, but also ones that have established and want to maintain those relationships with their community.
Yeah, I think that's something one of our hosts maybe mentioned one time that I thought was nice about, like the duty of care that they have as a resident in a sense of their community, to be screening and to make sure that they're not being bad neighbors and introducing Yeah, everything that we know can happen when it goes bad. Okay, so Airbnb is not allowing you to cancel on a bad feeling. You're saying you need to bring
Well,
evidence to that to cancel without penalty. But yeah, I can
exactly.
imagine so.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, go
yep.
ahead.
I was going to segue into something else, so you're welcome
Oh yeah.
to.
The last thing I want to mention about that side of it is the other reason why a lot of people that are using guest screening solutions like Autohost is you're now able to see a lot of that information before the stay actually occurs. So you then have actual evidence that's not just a gut feeling or where biases could affect your decision making. Customers are now able to really see, okay, what is an actual risk and what's just something that I can probably let through. That's just that gut feeling that is not always the correct, right?
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna take it back maybe a bit more broadly then and think about
Yeah.
in addition to guest screening, what are some of the other, I think, looking at different third-party solutions or different investments that hosts should be making to capture some of the same benefits as far as avoiding damages, avoiding parties, avoiding fraud, chargebacks, those kind of things. What else could we bring to the table?
Yeah. So in my perspective, there's like two factors to this. There's reactive measures, and then there's proactive measures. So when we're talking about reactive measures, having technology in your short-term rentals like noise monitors or branded Wi-Fi to understand your capacities, who's actually staying or in your unit at that exact moment. Those are really important. Cameras, things like automated door locks with having logs of who's entering, how many times that door is opening and closing. These are reactive measures that if you have a team that is taking a look at this information or having an action plan or a process to make sure when you see certain activities, you can act on it and make sure that you're preventing, maybe a smaller party from happening, not blowing up into something bigger where police are called and there's a disturbance that can affect that reputation in the industry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing what you can do with technology these days. I mean, I've seen some damage claims that have come through, and the Ring camera on the door capturing the 20 plus guests that are parading in all various shapes and sizes, should I say? Clearly
Yeah.
look like they're there to party. But yeah, it's good to have that evidence. I think one of the other points to make is like when people see like a prospective guest sees the kind of setup that you have, that's also screening away bad guests. So when they see that they're going to have to complete a guest screening, they're going to have to upload an ID, they're going to have to take a selfie, they're going to have to, they're going to be evaluated for fraud. You might have mentioned that you have noise monitoring, or you monitor, you can't exceed the guest count. Those kind of things are going to disqualify the people that are going to cause damage anyways, because like there's easier targets out here than
Exactly.
someone that's clearly made some conscious investments in their setup. So that's on the preventative side. Like even if it's a reactive or thing, it becomes preventative just when you talk about it as part of your house rules or in your listing in some way.
Yeah,
Um, cool.
exactly.
So back from broad to maybe more focused and get into a bit more detail about like how Autohost works specifically. What are the specific features you think that kind of address the anxiety that a host might have that's maybe new, especially like on the direct booking side where it's not coming with the umbrella protections of an OTA all the time. What specifically is Autohost doing?
Yeah, of course. When it comes to these OTAs or direct bookings that don't have the same type of protections, the big things that kind of also scope into the preventative side of that earlier question is making sure that you're creating a risk profile on your guests. So having things like an ID, a valid ID on file that's scanned the front, the back, and has correlated a selfie to facially scan the person in the selfie and the photo in the ID. That's one aspect. Credit card validation, so making sure that the credit card that's been submitted, is valid and doesn't have any holds and things like that, but also correlated to the guests. I could give you an ID right now, Andrew, that I took from someone in the office here and using it. These are things that need to be investigated. Not to mention, of course, the guest's detected location, the digital signature, because when all of these things are brought into the flow and cross-referenced and correlated, that's a super important aspect of a guest screen in general. You could collect just an ID or get them to sign a rental agreement. If these things are not really looked at for the guest specifically, it's almost a theatrics at that point. You're collecting it for the sake of collecting information.
I think, yeah, I mean, just talking about like the level of sophistication that you have to go to protect a reservation. It's helpful, I think, to bring up kind of the differences between a hotel and a short-term rental, because it's like we get this sometimes from either from guests or from hosts that are kind of like, well, this seems extreme. Why do I need to have an ID on file and it gets screened, like the barcode is analyzed so the ID hasn't been doctored and I need a selfie. Why this feels so invasive, but it's like, wait a second, like take a step back and look at what happens at a hotel, right? Like when you check in at a hotel, okay, there's no check-in desk at most short-term rentals in the first place. You might not ever see your host. They're going to verify your identity at that point, right? You're going to give them an ID. They might put that in the scanner, and who knows how many of their 6,000 hotels globally now have access to your ID. So like the kind of the pushback that comes, I think, from the guest screening side, it's like that happens. They're going to take your credit card. They might even take an imprint of your credit card. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but they're going to all the stuff that we're looking for on the short-term rental. We don't have access to that live check, like a live check-in. You can't fake your identity at that point. It's like we're talking about an online booking that I might never see the guest face to face as a host. And I need to make sure that I'm protecting myself from credit card fraud. I'm protecting the victims of credit card fraud. I'm protecting my neighbors from a bad booking, because short-term rentals are, not zoned for, commercial use. They're in neighborhoods. And so there's like, you start to kind of put those things together. If you haven't thought through that before, it starts to make a bit more sense. Where it's like, yeah, we actually need some sophisticated tools in place because this is not a hotel. And I think the reaction for some guests is like, well, I never have to do this for a hotel. Like, yeah, because it's different, right? And that can be helpful, I think, if some of our hosts do get pushback on this being onerous or it being a privacy consideration. Like we take a lot of, Autohost does as well. Takes a lot of consideration. Like one of the big announcements we actually have today is that we're actually now showing the ID verification steps in Hospitable. So if you're using Autohost, you're using Direct Premium, or you're an Autohost customer, well, sorry, not for Autohost customers yet, just the Direct Premium side. We've got the ID verification in there now, and we worked with Autohost to make sure we watermark those. So we respect the privacy of the guest as well, that these ID photos and selfies aren't going to be used for other means. They now say like Hospitable in big letters across them. But yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces there, and it's not a hotel, I guess was my point. It wasn't really a question, but you can take it from there, Austin.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a really good point. I think the biggest pushback, just like you said, is like, oh, like I don't want to bother my guest with these things. Your guests are expecting these types of
more and more, yeah.
These days. Exactly. The adoption curve of verifying transaction is only increasing the more we as an industry and really globally as a species of human, we get more and more digitalized. This becomes more expected. When you're looking at the traditional ways that hotels are even collecting the information, it's also even more of a security risk than what we're doing on the digital side here. Autohost is a cybersecurity company at our core. You can collect information with an easy file upload and all these things with other solutions, but when you have that responsibility not only to your community, but to your owners, to your guests, to safeguard and protect that information, making sure that you're doing that in a professional and secure manner is of utmost importance as well.
Yeah, I think one of the more topical checks along the same line is, being a good neighbor in your community is like some of the jurisdictions we're seeing, especially in Arizona now, require, the sex offender check on all reservations. You need to have that on file to be compliant. If you check, and that's something that we've had on the direct premium side for all of our reservations, get a sex offender search. I don't think I've seen any actually get triggered, but that's happening. That's good. And those would trigger a business rule, and those would be flagged either for manual review or rejection on our side. But yeah, there's potentially an ever increasing kind of compliance side. I think short-term rental hosts are used to having the threat of taxation, but there's also the threat of just increased compliance if we can't police ourselves and be good citizens, pay our taxes, screen our neighbors, and prevent parties from happening. Those are things that we need to do a good job of as an industry to keep everybody happy. What do you? Yeah, I guess the question that I could segue to there is, where do you see the industry going? Where does Autohost fit in that? But in general, like, how's the roadmap look for you guys?
Mhm. Yeah, I think the biggest goal of Autohost in 2024 is really looking for, how we can work with different pieces of the technology stack and make sure that each level of the transaction is verified. But in general, where guest screening is going, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, is the adoption is increasing day over day, month over month, and we are seeing a lot more types of regulations that are coming in different states, in different countries as well. Europe has kind of been that leader in the short-term rental regulation space, and the Western countries are now following suit. So we're going to end up seeing a lot more of these needs. I think also, like, reporting information to the authorities as well is another big ticket item, that there's a lot more regulation push for that, and a lot of customers and prospects are asking for those things. So there's some other big avenues that we're working on, and of course with partners like Hospitable, like the ID verification inside of Hospitable for hosts to take a look at. These are more improvements that we're looking to make, making sure it's even easier for those direct premium users to get the best experience.
Cool. Yeah, I think authority reporting is pretty common where I'm at in Italy and maybe in the EU more generally, and we're looking to expand to that market next year. So we've kind of been starting that conversation about what authority reporting looks like in Autohost, where once you've collected the ID, you don't want to have to collect it again a second time or a third time for authority reporting. But those will be interesting conversations to have. I think we're probably at about time. If you had like maybe any final tip you wanted to give before we launch into Q&A, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I was going to say the last little thing, just for what 2024 looks like, specifically for Hospitable and Autohost, is right now we work on the direct channel. We're also looking to expand that to other OTAs that Hospitable connects to for their users, and making sure that this protection, this level of sophistication, is applicable to all those different channels for I'll leave it at that for now.
Yep. Yeah. And from our side, I think we've been building out like a really good embedded experience with Direct, and we want to then share that to the other channels. And so a lot of that experience that my team specifically has been getting, we want to open that up. And I think that's actually a good segue into our first question that I have. And go ahead and raise hands if you want to get on stage and ask your question live. But we flagged a couple here, or Kevin did. Thank you. So I got a question from Thomas. It says, if we sign up for Autohost, does it automatically apply to every reservation, or can we manually trigger the process for individual reservations? Austin, do you know how that works then?
Yeah, of course. So I would even take a step back at the question of, why would you need to go in and manually trigger those specific reservations? It sounds like, there still might be the ideas I want to determine or have that gut check determine who I should be vetting. When what Autohost is doing is taking a look at the objective information that we're collecting, running these reports, and then letting your teams know which ones are of importance, which ones are risky, and which ones otherwise are green. There's no inconsistencies or red flags. This technology helps improve that overall process, so you don't need to manually review. But in the case that you did want to take another step, you could run like a criminal background check or a credit check after the fact. Those are options that our customers also will exercise.
Yeah, I think we could just describe a bit more how the product works. I saw there was a comment asking for a demo. This isn't really like a marketing demo kind of class.
Yeah.
We're trying to be generally helpful, but the way Autohost works is you're basically going to set up your guest portal, which is what guests see whenever you share with them that say, hey, this is what I do for my property is I ask all guests to complete this, and you can completely configure that however you need. So like we talked about a sex offender search, if that's something that's important to you or it's required of you, you would add that to the screening that happens. You can decide if you want to collect the names and emails of all guests or just the primary guest holder. You can decide if you want to have fraud checks on social verification, which helps tell you that, okay, this email address I have, like I would expect to see some social profiles linked to this, or the mobile phone number that helps me tell that this is a throwaway email or throwaway burner phone. Those kind of things. Like, what else am I missing, Austin?
I would just say the
Location
digital,
checks,
yeah. I think the digital
digital fingerprints.
and the
Yeah.
signature is really interesting because, like, you could collect an IP address pretty easily. But are you collecting, the information about the system, about the device they're staying? What Autohost is able to do, which is really cool, is let's just say we had a guest that's trying to book with, a direct premium user, but we've noticed that this same device, even though they're using a different name, different email, different everything, but the device that they're booking on is the same as a previous Autohost customer, one of their guests that booked 8 months ago that caused a chargeback. These are the types of things that we can alert you on, saying, hey, there is significant risk here, looking that this person is trying to obscure who they are. And that's a big thing, is understanding the intent based off the data of your guests.
Yeah, and then you can take the ability then to kind of increase your screening and say, okay, I want a credit check, I want a background check, and you can apply additional checks then when it comes out. But so I guess to answer the initial question, I'll just make sure we answered the question. It is going to run then on the integration. It's going to run on all reservations. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. You can, for direct users not going through Hospitable, you do have the ability to do that. But for this direct, since we have just the one channel, of course, we want to pull in and verify to at least a certain degree each reservation is coming through.
Okay. Okay, we have a good anecdote or a bad anecdote, I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we'll get your comments on this. So Patricia wrote in that we just had a guest that booked for 10 days, but we had to have Airbnb cancel less than 24 hours into the booking because the guest had a party with close to 100 people, and they were clearly high school, college age guests, except for a couple. We state that you have to be 25 years old to rent the property. That's the age you have to be to rent a car, I think, in the US. This stay was the guest's first stay, and we have it on, we have Airbnb set on instant book. How could something like this have been prevented in the future? Thanks for sharing that, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really great example of exactly why our customers will vet those Airbnb guests. When you're
A bit of
relying
a softball
solely
for you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because this is the power of Airbnb, is that they're just saying, hey, take this booking. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But then this is exactly what happens. You have to deal with the repercussions. So when you do have an auto host in place, and we are verifying the age of that guest, and we're going to make sure that you're alerted if this guest actually is under 25, if that's a rule that you want to put into place. The other really important thing is, I'm guessing the couple or something was the people to book the stay. when, just like Andrew, you said a bit earlier, when you have a guest that's going through this flow, oh gosh, I have my ID on file, a rental agreement, a security deposit, house rules I'm agreeing to. These guys mean business. Maybe I shouldn't let my kiddos have a big party in here because I'm going to be financially responsible for this in the end. Um, there's a behavioral impact that screening your guests has to make, and this is reports from our customers that they have seen better behaved guests once they've implemented Autohost.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. We had a question about, yeah, I think you did just touch on it, but does Autohost give the ability to sign a rental contract?
Yes, yeah, we can do dynamic rental contracts. So it'll actually have like the guest name, the address, the date, even maybe how much they paid on it. You can create a lot of customizations in that and have it automatically send to the guest and have that on record for your team as well.
Yeah, and that's, I think, possible through the integration with Hospitable, but not through the direct side. With the direct side, you are covered under the terms and service because Hospitable is also a party to the transaction. We're the merchant of record for direct premium. And so we have very host-friendly protections in place for you. But we do also want to give you the ability to sign a rental contract. It's not something we have today, but it is something we're looking at. Let's jump to insurance. Interesting. So I might mispronounce this name, but Ariolo asks, I'm not sure if I missed it, but did you talk about insurance hosts can use, or is host the application that can be used to just improve your self-relying on air cover in a sense? Do you want to talk about the tie-in between, I guess, guest vetting and insurance?
Yeah, you're right. And I think when we were talking, we didn't end up touching too much on insurance. Insurance is such a crucial part of this entire flow and setup, because you can still have good guests that forget to turn off a tap and overflow the tub, or leave the oven on or something. Making sure that you do have protections for the little things and the big things is super important. It's a mix between the first line of defense and the last line of defense. Making sure that you're covered on all fronts is super important to have a thriving, growing business, because you're not going to be bogged down by just the things that can happen in an ordeal like that. So I think that's the big thing for insurance, is that it's super important to have some sort of damage protection on there, but let's vet out the ones that are going to be causing the problems and making sure you're using it as little as possible.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely a part of our calculus and direct premium, is that the reason why we can get such a good deal, like the amount, we have $5 million of damage protection, is because we work with Autohost on the guest vetting side. And if, the guests are going through all this screening, we've got their ID, we've got their on file, that makes the underwriting for whoever you work for insurance, it makes it a lot easier when that's part of your standard operating procedure, is that you're telling the insurer, I'm going to verify every guest. I'm going to send you that file. And that's what happens. And when they go through the Autohost guest portal with direct premium, they have to agree to those terms of the damage protection, and that information gets shared. And that underwriter can then offer a very good deal for that level of protection based on the screening that you're doing. I got a couple more questions here. I've got time to get through. So Ryan asks, is it possible to add criminal background checks to the integration through direct premium? It is not today, but that is something that's on the roadmap. I think we want to just continue to build out the integration. And when we look at that kind of the position that Hospitable plays, it's to keep embedding the capabilities of Autohost better and better into the product. And yeah, that would be something that would be a great addition for those hosts and anyone using the integration as well, to be able to do those kind of escalation checks where it's like, I like this booking, but I have a bad feeling and I'd like a background check. I'd like a credit check. I'd like a criminal check. Those kind of things could be escalation options. So that's it. It's something we're thinking about. No ETA on those yet. But yeah, the release today with getting Autohost new SDK, so we can show more information in the inbox and Hospitable, is getting us closer to those kind of updates. Thomas says, sorry, I'm getting more and more confused. Oh no. I need at least 25 properties to sign up for Autohost, but it will be an option direct even if I have less, but I don't need it with direct premium, as that already covers the same functions. Okay, yeah, let's try and clear up some of the confusion there. So Yeah, we talked about basically two different programs. So there's integration side, which is like a BYO Autohost account. So if you're a property manager of significant size, you can get set up and have your own Autohost account, and you can integrate that into Hospitable. If you're using direct premium at the same time, that's going to work a little bit differently for you, because Hospitable as a merchant of record is actually kind of the customer of Autohost on those bookings, because we provide our host on direct premium a fraud chargeback guarantee. And to do that, we have to have this in place. And so we're the customer there. And so if you are a direct premium host, that means you don't need Autohost for those bookings, but you may decide after this that you want them for your other channels. For the direct premium, it's all embedded. You don't have a choice, actually, but we are going to share the report that we generate with you. And so you basically have the second action on every direct premium request to book. So, you can turn on instant book, and that means that if Autohost says this guest is green level of risk, so lowest risk, that means we're just going to auto accept for you if you enable instant book for direct premium. If they're not, we're going to give you the option. Or if you don't enable instant book for direct premium, you always have the option. So you have that request to book window where we're going to get the guest vetting from the guest, and you're going to be able to decide on the things that matter to you. So we're primarily concerned with fraud. We might let through someone that might be a party risk, because you might have a property that is cool with parties. That's fine, but we're going to give you all the things that you care about. You get to take the second action then. We rarely block things, but if it's fraud related, we'll block it. If it gets to you, you get to take the action, decide, is this a good booking for me? And then, yeah, if you're on direct basic, you don't have those same protections. It's kind of the same like bring your own tech stack for direct basic. So you don't have insurance embedded. You get to use your own solution. So for many, I would say direct basic is better for professionals that might already have kind of a preferred layout of vendors, or you can kind of start to build it. And so you can add Autohost as a customer of Autohost, but there's that gap of someone with less than 25 properties that might not be able to get Autohost like that. That's what we're trying to solve next. So we're going to try and basically have that embedded experience for direct premium for anyone outside of direct on any channel, where if you want to get guest vetting, you can do that. And that was a long way of hopefully clearing up some confusion. It might have made it worse. But Thomas, let us know with another question if you're still confused. And then another repeat question here. So Ariolo, sorry again if I'm slaughtering your name, says, which insurance would you guys recommend then? I use proper insurance in the past, but I've moved on from them. I don't know if I should make recommendations. I think it depends on what's important to you. So different providers have different protections. Some are damage protection only, which means you need to show the damage happened. You need to provide receipts. You need to do things like that. It's not like the same way like a security deposit works. If it's, someone smoked in my house, well, there wasn't damage, but that violates my policy. So I want to fine them. So I don't want to give them all their security deposit back. Like that's another way to think about it. Some people want personal liability insurance for their guests. These are not things that your typical homeowner insurance will cover when you're operating a business out of your home. So you do need to look at what's important. I can comment on the direct premium side that we work with Superhog currently. We are looking at different options, because that is a damage protection only policy, and I think some of our hosts said I actually want more coverage or less coverage depending on what's happening, and so we're looking at different options there, but they're the ones that provide a $5 million US damage protection insurance. And we've had a couple like tests as we were getting up, and that now, like I saw one, we haven't had a lot of damage actually, but the last one we had, I think they were paid out within the week. So it's pretty good experience when you've got everything, all the ducks in a row, and it's a very simple, here's my evidence, here's what happens, and you get paid out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last question that we've got on deck currently. So this is from Patricia again. So because we're a Hospitable customer, we can also use it with Airbnb, VRBO in addition to a direct premium. Little confused. I'm sorry, we're still confused on this. We do get a hand raise there. Good. So yeah, it's basically two products, and I won't go through the whole thing again, the whole spiel again. But if you're using direct premium, you don't have to do anything. It's just going to work for you on the Autohost and the damage protection side. It's all set up. If you are a Hospitable customer and want to use it on other channels, currently you need to get an Autohost account yourself. So you go to Autohost, you talk to Austin or one of his colleagues. He's honestly one of the nicest guys in the short-term rental industry. Forgot to mention that in your intro, sorry. But you need to be of a sufficient size. It is a sophisticated product. And for that reason, they're just not able to onboard smaller scale hosts, which are a lot of our customers. And that's why we want to take that next step and kind of offer, I guess, a third product to confuse you more, which is you don't need to go to Autohost to get your own account for other channels. We'll provide you a path to do that, but we have to keep building out a little bit more of Autohost product in Hospitable before we can do that. So that is the next step. And I think the growth of our partnership is to do that. And so you can turn it on for other reservations, but that doesn't exist today. So if you have less than 25 properties, you don't have an option in Hospitable today to use Autohost, unfortunately. And we are going to try and close that gap. So I think, yeah, I saw a few related questions, but let's let Daniel in, who's raised his hand here. How do I allow to talk? There we go. All right, Daniel, you're up on stage. If you could just unmute yourself and say hi. You're unmuted, Daniel. Are you there?
I feel like it's like a radio thing.
Yeah, Dan, you're on stage. If you can ask your question, otherwise I'll leave you on stage to figure out your mic and try and find another question here. Will Autohost be able to do the screening of guests from outside the U.S.? Great question from Imshad.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to take it?
No, go ahead. I think it's for you.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I saw you write down that you're going to take it. Yes, we're able to do the screening. Hundreds and hundreds of IDs across the globe, no matter where your guest is coming from. We'll be able to verify it. And when it comes to, there are some products like sex offender checks, for example, that is US only because America is the only country, excuse me, that makes those public. But yeah, for the global market, there's pretty much all the products available to you, and actually a few unique ones that I won't get into kind of right now, but definitely a big yes, big check mark there.
Cool, thank you. Daniel, you want to try your mic again? Hello, Daniel. All right, I don't think it's gonna. Now he's muted. I don't think it's going to work. But yeah, I think we're kind of wrapping up on time, and I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I think we'll end it there. But thank you so much, Austin. Thank you so much for the audience for sticking around. Very much appreciate it. And Austin, where do they find you then? They can't do a Google search.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. If you go autohost.ai in your Google search bar, you'll come right to us. Even if there are you're under 25 units and you are still really interested, I still encourage you to reach out to us. We can work on some alternatives or options to get you what you need, and making sure that once part of the 2024 idea with Hospitable was really making sure that we're covering all those bases, making sure that you're also the first to know once that's ready to get started.
Okay. Thank you again so much. Thank you again, everybody. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, your evening, wherever you're located. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks so much.